Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about reprogramming our mind for success and the power of our mind. It's going to be really interesting. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, product innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And I have a very, very special guest with me. Hi, Brent.
Hey, hello, everyone.
Brent Webb is the mind power expert. Brent teaches people how to understand the hidden abilities they possess to do more, be more, and have more in every area in their life. So as you can see, it's going to be really interesting. You're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. So before we start, I'm going to just ask you like a big question. What is mind power? What does that mean?
Well, mind power, we're all born with this amazing supercomputer. I mean, we literally have inside us the most sophisticated device ever created, but we have no idea how to use it. It's like you're born and they just push you on your own way. When you buy a cell phone, you get a manual. When you buy a toaster, you get a manual. You have this thing, go figure it out yourself. So mind power is taking your subconscious, your conscious, using them together. Because so many of us, we're lost in the past. We're worrying about all the things we did before. We're worrying about all the things that we think are going to happen in the future. And we're not spending any time in the present, which is really the only time you can use mind power, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. It's connecting everything and focusing where it matters.
Yeah. Most people would think about cognition and not about consciousness, right? When they're saying mind power, how can I be smarter? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the ability to really manage what's going on there, right?
Yeah. And when you do that, you free yourself from all these things that you may have inside you don't even realize that are holding you back. Things from when you were a child, things from when you were in college. These things have no relevance in your life, but they're still controlling your consciousness. And they're keeping you in this loop where, you're suffering all the time instead of realizing there's so much more that you can do.
So if we are not conscious of it, we don't know about it. How could we manage it if we are not aware of all these like patterns that are controlling us?
Yeah, you got it exactly right. Awareness is the first key. If somebody says to me, I've never done anything, I don't meditate, I don't know where to start, the first thing is awareness, is becoming aware of what's going on up there. So many people are afraid to spend time with themselves and find out what's happening up there. So awareness is huge. That's a big first step. It's just becoming aware of what the voice in your head is saying, what you're thinking about. If you do that on a daily basis, you put a Post-it note on the wall, draw a flower on it. When you see that, stop and you figure, what is on my mind right now? And after a while, you'll see it's almost always negative. That voice is always feeding you negative things.
Yeah. So actually, I think that most people are trying to avoid the situation that you just mentioned. And we have all these devices and screens and mobile. Just when we're starting to feel a bit like, some kind of like thoughts, I'm controlled by some kind of a thought or a feeling, I would probably go to a device. I would go to social media. I would go to Netflix, whatever. So how do you say we can manage it? Because it's so, I would say, I wouldn't say obsessive, but it's controlling us in that way, right?
It is
addictive.
Overwhelming.
Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah. One thing I did a long time ago is cut out news. I mean, I still get news when I need it, but news is designed to pull, especially now with social media and digital devices, they have to get you in that headline. So it's always gloom and doom and blood and death and murder. You never read good things. It's always, it's programming. I mean, since we were children, the first 8 years, it's like having a blank tape recorder running in your head. That's when your subconscious mind is created. So think about it. You go back to when you were a kid, put yourself in that situation. You're not logical. You're not mature. You're making decisions from the point of being a child. But in the first 8 years, that's recorded. So now, anytime you're on autopilot, which for most people is 80% of the time, think about that, how horrifying that is. That is the tape that's running. So this old, rusty, out of date tape, it's programming that you created as a child is now running your life. Because anytime you slip out of the now, you're driving, right? And we don't have to go, okay, I have to turn left here, right here. You're not doing that. You're arguing with your husband in your head. You're thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner. Your subconscious has taken over. That's when that tape's running. And for most people, it's you're not good enough. You're too fat, too stupid, too this, too that. Those are the things that control us today. So awareness gets you in there. All you need is that first invitation to get in there and find out what's going on up there.
Yeah. And let's say that I do find the time to just contemplate and think and even meditate. And I see all this like thoughts running in my head, which most of them are not that good, as we mentioned.
Right.
What could I do about that other than being depressed?
Well, meditation was a game changer for me. But if you meditate, the only thing you have to do in meditation, if you're doing like a mantra meditation, which I think is best, is you just come back to that mantra. So the trick is you may have a million thoughts in your mind, but the moment you realize you're not thinking your meditation mantra, you just go back to it. So it's getting into the habit of not being upset with yourself, because that's what happens. Oh my God, it was a wasted meditation today. You can't do that. You have to give yourself credit for pulling your attention back. Over time, you're going to start to build up your willpower, your focus, because you're taking back that power. And so even if it's just pulling it back to the mantra, that's important. It's becoming the policeman of your mind. What is going on up there is under your control. We don't think it is. We think that our mind runs us, but it's only because we have never trained it all these years. So it's running loose up there. It's like a monkey in a cage. It's like they call it monkey mind. It's when your mind's going a million miles a minute. You can take control of that, but it takes that first step, awareness, anything to get you up there to figure out what's going on.
So could you tell us like a story of someone that you work with and it changed his mind, it changed the way he lives, it's changed his life actually?
Yeah,
because I want to just understand what we're talking about. What are the consequences of what we're saying?
This is my 30th year of doing this. This year marks 30 years. And I've been everywhere from Russia, Egypt, Germany, Antarctica. I've been all over the world. So there's a lot of people, but there's somebody who sticks out in my mind is Amy. Now, I was doing an event in Cleveland about 3 years ago. And so I was doing some local media, some talk shows, and just getting ready for the event. And she saw me on television. Okay. This would be a Friday, and Saturday night I had my event. She shows up at the event, and after she comes to talk to me, and she said, I don't know what it is, but I saw you on TV and I knew I had to meet you. And she tells me her story. She's a single mother in her late 30s, just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and it was spreading in her body. Single mother, all the kids under 18. Okay. Wow. So she was, of course, like most of us would be, consumed with fear. So she couldn't do anything because that voice was constantly, you're dead, it's over, and of course the doctors aren't helping. They're telling her the same thing. You have 6 months, you don't get your affairs in order.
Statistics. You're on that side of a statistic.
Yeah. And when you hear that, most people believe it. That's why when somebody has no idea they're sick, they go in the hospital, then they end up having cancer and they die, because it's that right away, it floods your consciousness. So she wanted to know how to get past the fear, which is my thing. Is fear is everything that keeps us back. It's always some sort of fear. So in talking with her, and I spent a couple hours with her, and here's the thing, it's 3 years ago. She's still alive today. Wow. She is living her truth and her life. She still goes to the doctor. But she looks at other things. She's doing meditation. She's doing affirmations. She's doing visualization. She's doing what most people say new agey or woo-hoo, but it's working for her. Yes, because she finally figured out, look, this is a car and I am the driver. The car may be in trouble. The car may be sick. The car may be not in good shape, but at some point the car may stop, but you're going to get out of the car and get into another one. So her understanding that's that little easy parable there, it took that fear away from her. So she's thriving. Now she still has the cancer and she hasn't given up conventional treatments, but she's also brought in mental healing and the fact that, disease is dis-ease. We're all giving ourselves these diseases because of stress and anxiety, and we're torturing ourselves with our mind. So when you realize that it's you against you, it's not you and the doctors and you and the friends, and it's you. So it's an easy battle to win when you realize the opponent is you. So
Yeah.
you can step back from that. But yeah, she's been doing great. And that's just one story, but it's somebody, belief is powerful. And I've worked with, a lot of celebrities, and Joan Rivers was a big proponent on belief. Phyllis Diller, famous comedian, they were both big fans of The Magic of Believing, a book, I read 30 years ago. But belief, if you really believe something to your core and you believe that, you can transform what's happening around you because your belief is so powerful.
Yeah. So I wanted, the first thing that comes to my mind is these 3 years. If we're talking about fear, we're like in the end of the COVID pandemic. In 3 years, people were just so anxious and afraid, right? So do you think that right now we're seeing the consequences of these 3 years of really being afraid, actually, and not having any control and not trusting our bodies to feel well and all of that? How do you see that?
Yeah, I do. And I also see, the universal consciousness, which there's our individual consciousness, but of course we're connected to each other. And people don't see this, it's always this idea, the media, the government, it's always somebody that's trying to separate everyone, by
Right.
color, by race, by sexuality, by something else. When you realize that, that's going on, it also makes things a little easier because you realize there's always this overriding sense of gloom and doom. So the pandemic, really everything changed for me during that. I used to do 300 shows a year live on the road for 27 years, but staying away from that for a while, it kind of changed my perception, because I've been teaching millionaires, billionaires, CEOs, celebrities, sports teams how to do this. The problem is, I realize they don't really need this information. They know what they're doing, and most of them understand mind power extremely well. They know that when they free something, they get the energy back, and then they focus it where it matters. So I've worked with athletes, for instance, who are amazing at that. They have a one-track laser mind. They can focus on what it is that they want. And our minds are so scattered, all over the place.
Right.
So that
Right.
universal consciousness is picking up all that fear and all that, because it's individual consciousness, but then there's that connection where we're all connected. So that's the thing we've got to work on. That's why meditation, affirmations, anything you can do, just for you. Don't try to change the world. Don't try to change your family even. Work on yourself, because you changing will inspire the people around you to change. You don't have to go and hammer it into them. You just have to do it yourself. That's the best thing one person can do, is to really make a change in their own life and then inspire other people.
So what was the change that you mentioned that happened for you during the pandemic? Because before that you had all these tours and meeting people face to face, and what are you doing differently right now?
Well, like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years and I've never had any other job, and I've always loved it. I mean, I've been lucky. I've worked with famous people. I've done all these things, but even though you're on stage and you're in front of 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and they're getting a standing ovation, it's still hollow, for the fact that my ego was the thing that wanted that standing ovation. But at the end of the day, you're not doing anything for anyone. You're not changing lives or helping anyone. You're showing how great you can be, right? Or you're up there doing, your thing, but you're not inspiring or changing. And so when I started doing more online things and more virtual events and more helping people instead of, out there doing shows and making money, it just changed everything for me, because I realized all of a sudden, the ego that was feeding me all those years, and now you couldn't feed it like that anymore. It was just over for me. So doing this it's just been it's opened up a new, it's like somebody kicked a hole in the wall and I'm seeing, light that I never saw before. So it's just changed things for me in that way.
Yeah, and do you feel differently about what you're doing, about your work right now?
I do, because before, if you're in front of people and you're getting, even if you're getting results, you're getting a little at a time, or you're getting one person may tell you. But now I get messages every day. I get emails every day. So you don't realize the people that you're even helping or inspiring, because it's not always this kind of thing. It may be somebody who watches this. It may be somebody who sees a video of me from something else. So that's what's feeding me now. And I've used it. I mean, I became a vegan 6 months ago, and I'm a chubby kid from Ohio. That would not happen without mind power. I beat cancer years ago. And again, I had to focus on that. I quit smoking. I quit drinking. All the things I've done in my life, they're only because of mindset. It's really the one thing that keeps us from living the way we want to live. It holds us so hostage.
Yeah. How do you see that in people who are doing leadership positions in business and business decisions? How do you help people in their businesses focusing on what they want and what is needed for their business?
Well, the great thing is it's all the same thing. It's all mindset. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's your relationship, it doesn't matter if it's your health, it doesn't matter if it's whatever it is. It fits into the fact that you've got this thing up there that's running your life that you don't know what's going on. So whether you're a businessman or you're a barista in a coffee shop, getting control of what's going on up there is going to make it so much easier for you to handle the rest of your business. You're going to have way more focus. You're going to have way more intention. And that's what you need. This aimless thought, this idea, law of attraction is real and true, but everyone thinks you just wish for what you want and it appears in your driveway. It's not the
Yeah,
way it
yeah,
works. They forget the action step. And
yeah.
without that pivotal step, nothing is going to happen. It's just daydreaming. It's just wishing. It's not going to come true.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have a really nice person that I talked to in the past. Ole, how are you? And he said, I was just reminded of a book I for some reason picked up at the airport called Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Remember something about belief and it changes the DNA? You know this book? I read it too.
Yep.
So one of my favorite books. I really love it.
Yeah, Dr.
And
Lipton is amazing. I mean, he has a great way of explaining things because he's a whatever his degrees are. I mean, he is such a smart man, but he's a man who can talk in plain language, and that is so important when you're dealing with this because people either write it off as some kind of new age thing that doesn't work, or it's too complicated. Like somebody thinks if I have to watch my thoughts all day, I have 80,000 thoughts. That's not going to work either. People don't
no,
understand it, so he explains very very well.
yeah, yes, thank you, Ole. So, do you think that everyone could think differently, or you need to really have the time, the resources, the skills, the ability to concentrate, to focus? What is really needed in order to succeed in that? Because most people don't do that.
Yeah. I if everyone did it, the world would be completely different. I mean, you would have no war. You would all of the things, Buddhism and all the things that are based on this practice. I mean, they are. It would eradicate all of that because it's ego that's driving that. You know, you would there is no person who is connected and one with themselves who would be off fighting a war or trying to start a war. It wouldn't happen. And you wouldn't care that the wrong color was here, and you wouldn't care that women have the vote, and you wouldn't care about any of that. So that will change everything if it could happen. The best way to start that is I always say meditation, because until you have that connection with yourself and you can connect, that's what you're sitting quietly. That's what terrifies everyone. The
Right.
idea of sitting alone and thinking, because you know what's going to come up. All of the things that you've stored with pain are going to come up in those quiet moments. You know, you're driving down the road and you see a truck that looks like your ex-boyfriend's truck, and now your stomach's in a knot and you're upset. And what is that? It means you stored that feeling away with the emotion. And now anytime that thought pops up, all the emotion rushes back. And I
Right.
tell people that's a red flag. That's a gift for you, because when you feel that feeling, you know, there is something I need to work on. So don't
Right.
push it away again. It's like we take an experience, and because we either like it a lot, something that's just the new car, so we pull it in ourselves and we hold it there. We want to keep it. We want that feeling. We also, things we don't want, things that bother us, we also pull that in and we hold it in us with willpower. And so the idea is when somebody mentions it, don't go there with me. You know what that means? Don't
Yeah.
talk about the things that get me upset. So those are red flags. When you feel that, that is your first sign. Okay, there's something I need to let go. There's something I need to work on. It's just awareness. And over time, you'll start to, because there's the voice in your head, right? There's the voice that's just talking, that aimlessly talking, and then there's the voice that you control, that you make say things. You know, when you're doing something, you need information. It's the voice, the automatic voice running in your head. That's what's stopping most people. It's just the past. It's the preconditioned past. So you're walking down the road and you see somebody walking towards you that looks like the uncle that maybe abused you when you were a kid. So you're walking with your friend. She has no reaction at all, but inside you're having a panic attack, right? That means you've
Right.
stored something away with that feeling. So that's what we do. When you remove that, when it goes away, you get that willpower back. And that's what successful people understand. You take back the willpower from one little thing, focus it where it matters. You're working on a project, you're doing something. One little thing disappears, you pull the willpower back and you focus it. And that is how you're successful. You don't have to make giant changes. You make little tiny changes day after day after day. We got in this mess with repetition. We kept repeating the negatives. We kept repeating the limiting beliefs. Now it's going to take repetition in the other direction to even us up. So, as soon as you realize you're saying it, you got to either reverse it. If you're thinking of something negative, just reverse it in your mind. Okay. Or you can, another thing I've done before is you take I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, for instance, somebody may think. So in your mind, you're listening to that. And then you go, that's right, I'm going to lose my job. And then I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be living. And you exaggerate it to the point that it's hilariously funny. Okay. Right. Another thing, a great tip that I do is you name the voice. The voice that talks by itself for me is Carl. And when Carl starts talking, I go, oh, there's Carl again. Listen to what Carl is so crazy. So you look at it like a little kid, like you're looking at a kid having a tantrum or a kid telling you something. They're not mature. They're a little kid. So these little mind tricks, your mind is an incredible machine. So, but you can trick it. You can jump ahead of the line a little bit by your mind doesn't know if you're doing it or if you're just thinking about doing it. So once you realize that, you can definitely make some moves to make those changes.
Yeah. It's like having this distance between me and the thought, because it's not me, it's Carl. There is something that is passing within my mind, but it's not me. There is like this thought and it's not me. So the distance is very important. Now, it reminds me. Yeah, I'm listening. No, it's okay.
Distance, the fact that you said distance is so important too, because what starts to happen automatically, okay, you don't have to do anything, is over time, when you do that, when you stop and you realize what's going on in your mind, you don't get pulled into it. What happens to us is something happens in the outside world that pulls our attention in. Somebody calls us a name, some fight happens. We get sucked into that. It may be a week, it may be 2 weeks, it may be a month, it may be a year before we even realize we're in it. What happens over time is when you start doing these little mind hacks and you start making these little changes, something will happen in front of you. And all of a sudden, it will seem like things kind of slow down. It goes in slow motion. There is now distance between you and whatever is happening. And you literally have time to think, do I want to be pulled into this? What do I want to do here? And that is everything. Because normally we get sucked in immediately. We're fighting, we're yelling, we're screaming. That distance that you create there is the power. Because as soon as you see what's going on, but before you're pulled in it, you can change everything, because 99% of the time you're going to say, my peace is more important than being right here than that. And I'm just going to let it go, and you release that.
Yeah. And you're seeing the process when you're doing that. One of the things that I'm practicing is the work of Byron Katie. I know if you know it. Mm-hmm. So it's like really understanding and analyzing the thoughts. It's just seeing your thoughts and thinking about them just for a minute. Okay, this is what I thought. Is it really true? Which is a question that doesn't come to our mind. Of course it's true. This is what I think. It's the truth, right? This is what's out there. And instead of just understanding it, we're just interpreting what's going on out there, right?
Yep.
So tell me, what's the purpose of this voice that is like always talking in our minds? Why is it there?
Well, at the beginning, the world was a dangerous place. You walked out of your cave and there was a saber-toothed tiger ready to pounce on you. So this idea of fight or flight, you walk into a situation where, I need all my energy to run away from this lion or tiger or whatever. Yeah. Okay. But over time, life has gotten easier. Life has gotten cushier for human beings. It's no longer death, life, fight or flight anymore. But the fight or flight response is still active, except now it's activated by, is my nose crooked? Am I dressed well today? What did she just say about me? We have the same feelings, all of these emotions that we would have had in the past, getting ready to run for our lives. So we've adapted that in a very horrible way. So, knowing that the voice, what that voice is doing, the voice that just talks, again, it's the conditioned past. It's kind of narrating your life and it's trying to make you comfortable, because if you think about it, you're a person spinning around on a planet in the middle of the universe. That's what's really happening. That's overwhelming. So instead, you're a little tiny person who doesn't matter, and this person's mean to you, and and our parents did this, and that's what we do to ourselves. We shrink down to this nothing. Oh God, and I'm all alone and everybody's against me. So understanding that the voice is just there to narrate what's going on and try to make you comfortable. So what it's doing is, again, it's kind of going into the past in the mind, and it's finding something similar to this situation. So that's why the guy walking towards you looks like your uncle. Uh-oh, better watch out. Oh, there's a bike over there. Remember when you fell off that bike when you were 5 and you scratched your leg? So that's what your mind is doing. But you're not supposed to be pulled into it. And that's what happens. Remember when Margot broke up with you, and then all of a sudden you're in that. Now you're feeling it again and you're upset. And this happened 20 years ago. I know people that are fighting with their parents. Their parents are dead. They're fighting with their mother and the mother's been dead 20 years. So it's only you. You are the one. There's no one else to blame here. No matter what anyone did to you, you got to let it go, because it's constricting you. And that's all that matters. You watching, not the other people in your life that may be gone. It's you.
Yeah. And what you said about when we were like, let's say an animal, or in the past, when we were like in the jungle, it was like an elephant or a lion came once in, I know, a few weeks, a week, doesn't matter. And right now we're anxious all the time. We're worried all the time. We have this device and we're not enough. We're doing that. I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing more. And I need to do that. I need to do, like, you're always alert. So you don't have any case that, let's say the lion came, and let's say that you're still alive. Okay, you can take it down. Okay, he went.
Yeah.
And we don't have this like going down, like focusing right now. We don't have that at all.
Yeah, that's so true. The lion, there's an outcome there. Either the lion killed you, you killed the lion, or you ran away. But it's over. And 20 years later, you're not going to be thinking about it. But that's what we do. 20 years ago at a birthday party, maybe you did something really embarrassing. And now anytime you think of it, you were a little kid 20 years ago, but it flushes all that emotion back inside you. And that's what we do to ourselves. It's not a fight or flight. It's fight or flight response, but it's not a life or death situation anymore. We have taken this huge piece of biology that was there to save us, and we've turned it into something that is literally torturing us. Because now it's, what did she say? Why did you walk in a room and you say hi to somebody, they don't say hi, and all of a sudden you're trying to figure out what you did to this person, and maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe something happened to them, you don't know. But we make everything about us. It's always us. There's the outer world and there's the inner world. We've got two worlds going on, and they're connected to each other. That's why things in the outer world always affect us. They always affect our inner world. Somebody calls us a bad name, we take it in, we're upset about it. What people don't realize is because of that connection, the inner also affects the outer. And when you get in that space, it's magic, because now you are manifesting, you are creating what you want and bringing it into the world, instead of the world doing something and you reacting. We're all living in reaction, 90% of us. This takes that away. You just deal with whatever's here. You accept it, because trying to fight it, that's another thing. People, they decide, okay, my life has to be this way. I want this. I don't want that. I want this. I don't want that. And then what we do is spend our entire life trying to make that fit into what's going on in reality. Think about that's a torturous life. It's like you versus the universe. You've pitted yourself now, because if it's not this way, I don't like it. I want this. I do not want this. So if I get what I don't want, I'm upset. If I don't get what I want, I'm upset. Instead, accept what's here, because it's been billions of years to get here. And you thinking that this has to do with you is the biggest ego trap ever, because it doesn't. We're here, but we're here to enjoy. We're here to learn. We're not here to worry about the color of pants we're wearing. And did it make somebody, think we weren't a fashion icon? It's just so stupid.
Yeah. But most people will tell you, I guess, that if you don't aspire to be different or to be better or to have more in your life, it doesn't matter what, they would say, okay, so I would just sit and hug trees. I would just do nothing. I need to aspire to be more. I need to grow. So how do we manage this question?
Well, you definitely are going to aspire, because what you're going to do is take the 50,000 things that you're holding inside you. It's like having a thorn in your arm, and you can't brush it, you can't touch it, you can't do anything because it's bothering you. So you try to build your whole life around this thorn and how not to touch it, and you got to wear special clothes, right? And you got to build an apparatus to hold this thing and just pull it out. The secret is not trying to make it fit into your life somehow, because that's the problem, is pulling it out. So that's what you have to do. And then you focus that energy on the things that matter. So if it's your business, that's great. thinking about your birthday party when you were 5 years old and how embarrassing it was is doing you no good now. So when you get that, you feel that feeling of I feel embarrassed again. Again, that's your red flag. So you think about it for a moment and you apply logic, because this is the thing that when you drag something out of the darkness in your mind and you apply logic to it, or just bring the light to it, it will go, because it can't stand up to it. It's obviously not logical. It's obviously you weren't mature when you did it. So when you finally drag that out and have the guts to look at it and the way it really is, not the way you remember or the way you wish it was, it will go, because illusion is all that is. So it can't hold up to scrutiny. And that's why we spend our lives trying, don't go there with me. Now, you can't say that to your father. That's what that is. There's something there that gets their stuff up. So instead of hiding it or trying to not talk about it, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, I had a talk today with a friend, and I told her, I heard some people are getting sick, and a friend told me, and then she said, oh, no, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about getting old. We're not going to talk about sick people. Okay, you will talk inside yourself. You don't need to talk with me. You have this talk inside you, so we don't need to discuss it, right? So I want to talk to you about self-love. How does someone create self-love, not judging themselves, feeling content with who and what they are?
Well, I started when I was a small child, and I was a little overweight kid, who always, a kid like that, a only child, always has self-esteem issues usually, and I read The Magic of Believing when I was 10, and I didn't quite understand it, but I knew there was something here. Okay. And that book has kind of been an amazing thing in my life. But what you have to do is you have to accept the parts that you don't like, the parts that you want to change, all of that. And you can do that. You can make changes, but you can't fight what's here. So if, you have an extra 20 pounds and you look in the mirror, and that's your starting point. You can't be upset that you're there, because you got yourself there. So you have to, self-love is just saying, and trust me, I never was one who could say, look, I'm losing my hair. Look at this. I have an extra 50 pounds I need to lose. I that. I never, especially as an entertainer or a performer, ego. But when you let that stuff go, it's freeing, because you're holding this, all of this stuff in. And again, you don't want anybody to make fun of it. You don't want anybody to talk about it. You don't, bring it out yourself. Do it first. You've got to love the starting point. Doesn't matter where you are, but you got to learn to love it, because that's how you're going to change. Otherwise, that voice is going to trick you into pulling you back in. You don't need to do this. The last thing that your subconscious wants is to be trained. It's spent your entire life running the show. Everyone thinks that we're slaves to the mind. It's the other way around, but nobody knows how to do it.
Yeah.
You've got to get your mind working for you, and that is where, if you hear negatives coming into your mind, you stop them immediately. I call it, being the policeman of your mind, being the guard of the gate. There's no one else. No one's going to do it. You've got to do it. So you get up there and you just figure out what's going on. That's the biggest fear for most people, is not even wanting to go into that dark room by themselves and be around their thoughts. So doing that will change everything.
Yeah, I think that what most people would say, that this way of self-criticizing yourself will make them do something. And they don't, I think, see the other option, that self-love would make you do things too. You don't have to control yourself and to judge yourself in order to do something for yourself. It's like, this is how we perceive ourselves. Like we need to, somebody needs to beat us up in order to do something. And we're beating ourselves up in our mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way you are now is an accumulation of everything you've done in the past. So you're not going to change it tomorrow, but bringing the light of awareness to it changes everything. And it doesn't matter how slow you start. It doesn't matter if you're only doing whatever you're doing every day. If you're doing something, you're successful, because you're moving towards your goals. It's like, you got to know where you're going. You get in a car and you got to, if you don't know where you're going, you got to know what to program into the GPS. Otherwise, you're just going to drive off a cliff somewhere. You got to know where you're going. And most people have a vague idea. I want money. I want a great relationship. I want, but they're very vague things. You got
success.
You got to want success. Yeah, exactly. I want success. People tell me that all the time. What do you want? I want success. Okay, let's be specific about this, because you got to have an end game. Because in order to play this right with the mind, and you got to take advantage of the little quirks of the mind, visualization. Again, your mind doesn't know if you're doing it or you're thinking about it. If you take 60 people and you split them up 30-30, and you let 30 of the, say they're college kids, 30 kids go every day, they shoot basketball, play on the court, and they actually play. And these are non-athletes. You take 30 kids, and for the same amount of time every day, they do it in their mind. They visually make the, if you look that study up, they're almost, the rate of improvement is almost identical to the people doing it and the people thinking about doing it. So once you know that, you can get in there and again, put these little brain hacks to work for you and get your mind to start moving in your direction.
Yeah. So let's say that we are aware of these first 8 years in the past, and we know that something is hurting us. As you said, like, I see this person, it reminds me of my uncle, of my ex-girlfriend, whatever. How do I let go of that past? Because right now I'm thinking and rethinking and then rethinking about this ex-girlfriend, right? So how do I let go of that thought?
The easiest way, again, is just becoming aware, because most of the time when that happens, somebody's walking towards you, you see the car, you get pulled into it before you realize what's happening. And you, and again, you may spend, I know people that never realize there's anything else in life. They're born and they die in a tunnel almost, because they never realize there's more. They live, they work, they have a family, but there's nothing else. Okay. So you have to what was the question?
How do we let go of the past? If we do know that, how do we do that?
Here's the best way. 40% of the time we live in the past, okay, on a daily basis. 40% of the time we live in the future. The past is all the things we could have done, should have done. If I had done this, he would have done that, and this wouldn't have happened. We just play the same tapes over and over again, okay? And we try to see different outcomes. The other 40% of the time, we're petrified of what we think is going to happen. And we always take the worst case scenario, because that voice is helping you. Oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing ever. You're going to lose everything. So your mind is doing that to you, right?
Yeah.
The now is the only time you can make any changes, because this is the illusion. The past is over, right? And when the past was happening, it was now. Because there is really no past, because when it happened, it was happening in the now. When the future gets here, guess what? It's going to be now. So there's no future either. So when you discount that and get rid of it, what I do is go, okay, if I need the past for knowledge, for something I'm working on, and I have to remember something from my past, I'll go in there. But if I'm not going to go in there and start thinking about, the Christmas present I didn't get when I was 8. I'm not going to do that. And so that's just awareness, because the more and more and more time in the present you build up, it's like you're opening a portal, and that portal lets you get in and make changes, because you're not going to ever change it from the past, and you're not ever going to change it from the future. The only way to make changes is to get in there now. So we keep deferring our pleasure. It's like you're making a cup of coffee, right? That moment doesn't matter. It's the moment you drink the coffee. So we're always putting the payoff, the happiness, the whatever into the future. So it's constantly eluding us. When I marry him, I'll be happy. When I get this job, I'll finally be happy. Be happy first. Yeah. Make yourself happy first, and then you'll get everything. It's completely, everyone says, I'll see it when I believe it. It's, you'll see it when you believe it in your life. You have to believe it first.
Yeah. I think that in general, we're always like living in like, once I have that, once I do that, once I'll accomplish something. And most people think about it like that's the way of what we're talking about success. That's the way of achieving success, because when I get there, but what really happens from my own experience is when I get there, I just have another peak in front of me. It doesn't end.
That is it. And if anyone, the great thing about what we're talking about, anybody can go to their own life and look in their past and see that this is true. Because it's true. As soon as you think this mansion is going to make me happy, this person is going to, and you get that person, immediately the mind is happy for maybe 5 minutes, and automatically the stakes are up. It's like people that are all about earning money. It's never enough, because now you can buy a speedboat. Now you can buy a yacht. Now you can buy a fleet of boats. That's what happens when you're in that mindset. So you got that. It's dead on. That's so true.
I heard like in the past that there was a research about people who got like the first, like in the Olympics, the ones who got the gold medal, and the second and the third in line. And the second are the most miserable ones, because they almost got there. But the third one, I think it's bronze, if I'm not mistaken, they were the happiest ones, because they got in, they got to the podium. So they were much happier than the second winner up,
Yep.
which is, it doesn't make sense, right? Because you're thinking they are more successful if we're talking about success, right?
Yeah.
And I think that in general we have this notion of success, which is like, once I have this, or it's very like outside. The success comes from the outside,
Yep.
because inside you cannot see if I'm content or happy, or you can see I'm smiling, but you don't know if I have joy in my heart.
Right.
And most people would not consider that as successful, right? So it's like, this is success,
Yeah. Yeah. You got it.
right? So tell me a story about one of the celebs you've been working with, something that we would not imagine, that because they are like successful, right? They're, if we're talking with someone who's like a CEO or a celebrity or someone who's famous, it's considered successful, right? Are they more content, or it's just an imagination?
They're not more content. Here's the thing. Money, for the people who don't have money, okay, money is freedom, really, is what that is. What you're going for when you're saying, I want to be successful, I want to be rich, what people are wanting is, they want that security, that idea that they can do what they want. They have no boss. They can go where they want, do what they want. That's what freedom is. So celebrities have, most of them have that. They have the money issue, right? But then it opens up a bunch of other things. I've worked with, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Dionne Warwick, Shaka Khan, all kinds of people. Kenny Rogers, here's an example. He's passed on now, but here's a guy who's in his 70s at the time and just had plastic surgery on his face. And his face was pulled so tight that his eyes wouldn't close. He could not get his eyes to close. So at night, he had to sleep with a mask on to go to sleep, because otherwise his eyes were open. And he even said to me, I made the dumbest decision ever. I mean, he's in his 70s. So, but that's again, you're in show business. You feel like you're not enough. Even somebody like him, a Grammy-winning, gold record, huge touring, multi-millionaire, is still trying to keep up with the younger guys. That's what happens. These famous singers, comedians, they have all of the same fears that we do. They're just multiplied, because they're in a much bigger arena. Well, am I going to say something stupid on TV? Remember that time when I fell down at the awards?
Everybody saw that.
Yeah.
Right.
So think about Will Smith and that slap at the Oscars, right? That his entire life and career took a complete U-turn from that one thing, because he's so famous and so big, and he made one dumb judgment that for the rest of his life, he's going to think about that moment, those 5 seconds of his life. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I have lots of discussions with my kid. He's a teenager. Teenagers, this is how they think, and I always tell him, the fact that this person is so successful, as you see it, doesn't mean that he's happy. And he says, no, they are happy. They have everything. We always have discussions about LeBron James. That's the name, like LeBron James. He's the GOAT. He's so
right
successful.
Here. I'm near Cleveland. I mean,
really?
This is LeBron Jamesville.
Wow.
There's billboards and paintings of him.
Wow. My kid would change with you in a minute just to go to see him.
I think if that was true, rich, successful people would not commit suicide. You wouldn't see Kate Spade kill herself. You wouldn't see Anthony Bourdain commit suicide. They have everything. They've got incredible wealth. They've got incredible fame. They've got an incredible career. They travel. They do from the outside all the things you would think would make someone happy, but they commit suicide. And what makes you commit suicide? The voice in your head. Nobody's ever killed themselves without that voice telling them to. Where is the idea coming from, right? It's coming. That's how twisted that voice can get inside your head when left to its own devices. It'll take any energy it can to survive. And so when your energy is all fear-based, it's thriving up there, because it's just throwing out a million things a minute. You're not good enough. You're too this, you're too that.
So I wonder what you think about therapy in general, because in therapy, we do drill into these thoughts and rethink them and drill into them and even like extra contemplate on them, right? So sometimes it could be damaging in that sense, because I'm aware of it, but I'm still like inside the cycle of rethinking and refeeling the same thing that I had in the past.
Well, I think if you, because the therapy is a tool that a lot of people need, because in order to get to, they've got to clear through. A lot of people have to clear through a lot of trauma and clutter to get in the position, because otherwise it's so overwhelming that you're not going to make that change on your own. So I think that in that case, it's great because it's getting you to a position where you freed up some mental energy, some life force, and you're able to go from there. Because right now, a lot of people are depleted. There's only so much life force energy. And if you've got a million things inside you, you're holding in with that energy, with that power. Every little thing that comes back to you releases energy. So that's what you got to start doing. Okay. So doing both, if you're somebody that goes to therapy now, if you work with a therapist, then that's fantastic. Don't change it if it's working for you, but maybe add some mindfulness, add some awareness training, some affirmations, because you'll get there twice as fast that way. Instead of going once a week, twice a week, talking to someone, and then, getting these long, painful stories out. So maybe you're doing that, but also you're doing a little self-work. So you can kind of deal with that too. That's bringing two sides together here, and you're going to get there faster.
Yeah, I think that another thing that I usually go and learn things that are not related to what I do. So the last thing that I learned is ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. So I think that what they're saying is that sometimes we're just rethinking about things in order to avoid really feeling them. And we just need to let the feeling be. We need to feel what was, and then we could release this energy. And if not, we're just trying to avoid that with overthinking, or the thoughts are trying to tame what's going on outside, and the energy is still stuck. Instead of like letting that be, and then it could be released. It's like we have only one battery. It doesn't matter. It's only one. You can't have more. You can't it could be less, but you can't have more energy than what you have, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people are energy vampires. Those are the people you walk up to and you say, they say, "How's your day?" And you say, "Oh, it's great. How was yours?" "Oh my God, it was the worst day ever." And then they tell you their long, horrible story, right? That's an energy vampire. That's somebody that's so depleted, they're stealing yours. They're stealing your energy to get through their day. So when you see one of those people coming, and you know who they are. I mean, I have an aunt that's so everything negative in the world happens to her. She goes through the drive-through at the car wash, and somehow the window comes down and fills the car with soap. How does that happen to? So you got to become aware, that you may be that kind of person, or that you have those kind of people in your life. And so when they ask you and you say great, and you ask them and you don't get pulled into it, you may listen for a moment and do because what you said, you were talking to someone and you were saying, I don't want your negative talk.
Yeah.
You don't have to go that way with everybody, but even if you just say, oh, I got to run, you meet somebody on the street, oh, I got to run, I have an appointment, but you just get yourself out of that situation.
Because
they'll take it. An energy vampire will suck you dry. I mean, they will take your energy completely.
I think that another thing that we talked about the distance. It's like the distance from our own thought and the distance from the feelings and thoughts of others. It's their thoughts, it's their life, it's the way that they perceive reality. And okay, sometimes I do see the same way, but sometimes it's their way of thinking. And I don't need to consume that. Right. So I think what I think, right. And in general, I think that, we talked about this animal that the lion came, right. And then the animal went away. When the lion is coming, so the animal is fleeting. And once, let's say that they were saved and the lion did not do anything to them, they are shaking their body, and they're licking themselves, and they're going back to the pack to be together, right? And we're not taking the energy out, we're not releasing the energy, and most of the time we're doing most like passive, nothing,
holding it in,
just not doing anything. And surely sometimes we're not talking to anyone about it, like we're just, and we think that once we're like putting it out under the carpet, it's like, now I'm relaxed. It's not here, but it stays there.
It's just an illusion, because the smallest thing will bring it up. And so, like I said, those are your red flags. When something comes up, it's coming up for a reason. It's coming up and saying, let me Go. Let me go. And it's just as bad to try to keep the good things. You see a beautiful sunset. And so, oh, you want to keep that, right? You go and you buy the house that's on the corner where that sunset was because you think you're going to have that sunset. It doesn't work like that. It's a fleeting thing. So you let everything pass, the good and the bad. Stop. We're like hoarders. Like we try to hoard all this and then we're buried under all this trash. And we need to get out of it. So again, it just takes that idea that repetition got us here. Repetition will get us out of it. But repetition of the right things.
Yeah. I heard an experiment of, I think, like people who went to learn how to be priests, and they needed to have a ceremony about giving and about being courteous, about being nice to other people. And the experiment was that they needed to go to somewhere like in the other part of the campus in order to do this ceremony. And all these young people went from one side to the other, and there was this person who needed help in the middle of the walk. And some of them did stop and some of them did not stop. And the only difference between the people who did stop or not was the fact that they were not in a hurry. So they wanted to talk about being courteous and being kind, but when you're always in a hurry and you have this feeling of being stressed all the time because you need to do something all the time. So you're just missing these sunsets and you're missing the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been everywhere around the world. I would wake up at 3 a.m. in Argentina and I would have this overwhelming feeling of dread for no reason. I wouldn't know why. That's what really, when you have stress and anxiety, you live in that constant state. It's like you're saying, everything becomes a race to get it done or to do it. So you could be driving to the grocery store and you've made it into a race with yourself. You're driving, somebody in front of you is driving slow. And now you're back there yelling you're literally having an argument with that guy. He's driving along, has no idea. And you're back there cussing him out. Let it go. You're having a picnic Saturday and you wake up and it's raining. What are you going to do? Let it go. No. Oh my God, the universe hates me. Oh my God, this, that.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
It's a bad day.
We take it all and we think the universe is in us. Like it revolves around us first. And just be here, enjoy it. Look at the sunset and don't try to, look at the flower, but don't try to, you don't have to pull it out of the ground. Appreciate it. Our mind does a weird thing where it names things, it labels things, right? So all our lives we've been doing that. This is a palm tree. This is a pine tree. This is that. So when you're looking at things, are you really looking at things? You're not looking at this tree and this individual tree and this tree has different branches. You're going pine tree, palm tree, grass. You're not looking at anything. Okay. And the problem is we take that when we're kids and it builds and builds and builds. And then it starts to become, he's a drunk. She's not smart. You met somebody once and they were out of their mind drunk. Maybe their dad died the night before and you don't know. But in your mind, they are labeled forever a drunk. Okay. We love to label things. We love to label people and experiences and everything. And so when you get past that, you walk outside and you're touching this beautiful tree. It's a pine tree, but look at this. And you're appreciating it. The sunset. You're not just, because how many times do we even realize, I'm driving and I'm thinking, and then all of a sudden the sky, which has been in front of me, it just takes my breath away. Now I've been looking at it for 10 minutes, but I haven't really been looking at it. It's been running while my mind is going crazy.
Right.
So start appreciating what's around you and just really look. Labeling is very bad. We do that.
Yeah, and it's related to being thankful, to being aware of what we should be thankful for. And if we're not here, we don't even notice what's going on and how we do that, right?
Another great thing, this is my gratitude journal, and I do this every morning.
Wow.
So I just do 2 pages of, I usually do one of all the things I'm grateful for, because when you get in the feeling of gratitude, you get more to be grateful for. It's just the truth, and it definitely works for me. So I do 1 page of all the things I'm grateful for in my life now. And then I do 1 page of whatever it is the end game is. What am I creating? But I write it as if it's happening now. So because what most people will do is say, it's off in the future. I want to be. I want to have. Okay. I am. I have. I am. Because then it's now. Because otherwise you're putting it into a place where it's never going to come, because it's always just ahead of you on the hamster wheel. So I do a page of that, I am, and all the things that I'm creating to be. And that's how you become the person that you're meant to be. It doesn't just happen. These amazing, incredible, successful people aren't just they don't just grow in a petri dish. You've got to create that, and doing this will get you there.
Yeah, it reminds me again of LeBron, the chosen one. He heard that when he was 17, and everybody said that all the time. So if you just think about yourself as whatever, he was the chosen one for that, but what you think about yourself. I'm very curious to see give me a few things that you wrote about who you are in the future. Give me an example.
I'm successful now, but I'm building a completely new business. So, I am a successful spiritual teacher. I have, I'm going to move back to California. I have a beautiful home in California. I have a guest house for my mom, all the things I'm creating. And what I do too is on my vision board or somewhere, when I create something, I don't get rid of it. I move it to one side, because the fuel you get from looking at something that's the proof, because everyone's looking for the proof. I don't believe it. I want to see it. So when you start getting proof, don't discount it. Don't take it off the board. Move it to the other side, because now I go, look, I manifested that. I manifested this. I did this. That's the trick, is to go up there and live like you'd live if you were the person you want to be. So how would that person live? If you were say you want to be a wealthy person, how would that person live? First of all, they wouldn't have any stress over money. So next time you're paying your phone bill, don't stress about it, because they wouldn't have stress. You have to live the way you think that you're going to live, and become that, and then lead from that place. When you go out and, that's what people who are they're magnetic. You see somebody walk in, they are great with themselves. They love themselves. They're cool. And I've seen people, big people, small people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a great looking, thin person with, full head of hair and bright teeth. It's because there are a lot of people that have too much self-confidence, and they don't need it. They shouldn't have it, because it's coming from a place where they don't deserve it. But to be magnetic is when you are so comfortable with yourself that people can tell. You're honest. You're not lying. You don't have a agenda you're trying to complete. You are living for you. You're living in the moment. People see that, and they want to be close to it, because it's very attractive when somebody else is living a life that you don't think is either possible or is a life that you want to live. So you're kind of, again, inspiring people just by being yourself, by living your life.
Yeah, by being authentic with who you are, who you want to be, right?
To be you, not the idea of what you think. Okay, my mom wants me to be this. The neighbors want me to be this. That awareness, when I say awareness, like we said earlier, the biggest key to that is the truth. Not you want to see the real you, not what the neighbors think, not what you've done for your parents, not how because we've all cultivated characters that live in us.
Yeah.
And so this character comes out for our parents, and this character comes out on a date, and this. If you can bring those things together, because all of parts of them are real, but then there's masks there too,
Yeah.
So be as authentic as possible, and it doesn't matter, because people will be attracted to that.
Yeah. So it's like taking off this facade of what we think we want to be, or what people expect us to be, or what is the right thing to be.
Yeah, just be.
Just be instead. So the longest discussion I ever had. It's very hard for me to stop, but I'm gonna ask you like two more things. You said about if you want to be wealthy, don't worry about money. Most people spend much more than that they need, and then they're not wealthy afterwards, or maybe the other way around, because they're wasting money, right? So what we're saying, just want to clarify that, is that we want to have the feeling of wealth. We're not going to just spend money that we don't have, right?
Yeah. Fake it till you make it. Everyone, especially nowadays, kids on Instagram, and they're, you see these, like, it's like your son said, oh, their lives are perfect. You're seeing their lives through a lens of a camera. Of course, you don't know how many photos they took to get to that one, and the lighting's, everything's perfect. Okay. So you have to understand that it's not, everyone is not happy. There's a lot of illusions going on out there. So you got to find that feeling in yourself, and stop looking to everyone else. You gotta make that connection in yourself. So feeling that you have the money is not faking it till you make it, not go out. When I say fake it till you make it, I take that phrase as become the person you want to be until you become that person. But most people take that as, okay, wear a fake Rolex and pretend it's real, rent a Mercedes and tell people it's yours. That's not what it is, because what's happening
Yeah.
there is you're lying and you're caught up in that. And so you're always going to be coming from that. Okay. The idea is, I don't care if you're driving a 1986 Hyundai, own it, sit in there and own it. And when you're driving it, feel like it's a Maserati or whatever, but spend a few moments playing. They're just little mental games for yourself, but
Right.
they'll move you forward, because trying to compete with everyone else, it's an illusion. You don't know the backstory. You don't know what you're not seeing. So there really is no competition. The real competition is us versus us, me versus the 2.0 me. And so I'm always going back and forth. If you look to see who's running next to you, you've lost, because you're now, your focus, your awareness, your power goes to somebody else. Are they beating me? Are they ahead of me? Are they behind me? Forget them and forget everything else except you. Okay. Am I becoming better than I was yesterday? That's all that matters. And if it's a tiny bit, yes, you're successful.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have another sentence from Ole. So he has a better be a good original than trying to be a copy of someone else, right?
You see it all the
So,
time, especially with famous people.
right.
I started out as a magician, a little kid magician. Everybody in magic when I started, and I haven't done it for years, but everybody wanted to be David Copperfield. So they're all wearing, the wind in their hair and and people that I couldn't pull that off. Here's chubby me, right? You got to be you. So when I go on stage, I'm real and
Yeah.
honest and funny and telling my story, but I'm not trying to be a ladies' man who's got wind in his hair and it's not me. It doesn't fit. So yeah, you realize what you like, what you don't like, and you got to be proud of it. You can't be ashamed of it. You got to own it. If this is something, if you are somebody that likes to go out and pretend they're in the war of 1812 and they're wearing, because I know people do those recreations or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do it. Do
Yeah.
whatever it is, as long as it's not hurting anyone, as long as it's not, hurting you, then do it. But own it. Don't hide it. Don't tell people you're not doing it. Just do it.
Yeah, if it makes you happy, you should do
Yeah.
it. By the way, we don't have that at all in Israel, because we have it in real life. We don't need to do anything. That's for sure. Oh, I think we could talk for hours, and maybe we should do another one. And I really enjoy our talk. But let's tell us about how people can contact you and hear more about what you're doing.
If you want some more information, go to my website. It's brentwebb.com, BRENTWEBB.com. But one of the things I've done for your listeners, your watchers out there, is one of my books is 5 Steps to the Perfect Mindset. It's 5 things you can do if you haven't done anything and you want to get on that path. It's free, nothing to buy. But if you go to successsecrets.net, one word, successsecrets.net, you can download a free copy. Again, you don't, nothing to buy there, but start reading it, and start putting it to use. Anything you do that is in the right step, positive to making changes, you're successful. It's when you're in the past and worrying and in the future. But if you're doing anything today, anything that's moving you forward, you're successful.
Yeah, you're right. I totally agree with you, and I think that I'm a very perfectionist person, and I always want to achieve more and to learn more. And sometimes I do forget about the things that I've done. It's like, yeah, check, check, check. Like I forgot it, but I have a new thing to do right now. And if you don't just stop and see what you've done, being thankful, gratitude for what you already have, you will always feel that you're lost, that you're lacking something.
And a great way to do that is read the gratitude journal that you write. Don't read it right away, but wait 6 months, wait 4 months, because I've written things that I've manifested, relationships and things, and I go back and I'm blown away by what I was saying I had. And then I get it and I realize, so yeah, you've got to go back and you've got to see your wins, because it will be fuel, especially if you're unmotivated or you feel like nothing's happening. Go look at what you've created already, and it'll give you the fuel to push you across the finish line.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really, really enjoyed our talk. Thank you, Brent. It's one of my favorite talks till now, and I have 108, and you're the 109. So
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I really encourage you to go and see the book. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. And if you want to learn more, go to invincibleinnovation.com, and I see you with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya. I'm Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.